Welcome to Canada's podcast.
Hi, this is Celine Williams, hosting from Ontario for Canada's podcast. My guest today is known by audiences and the media as the Unbalanced Paddleboarder. Mike Shoreman is a motivational speaker, author, athlete, and one of Canada's top lifestyle experts. He is an entrepreneur extraordinaire and spokesperson for several national nonprofit organizations. Mike, thank you for being here with me.
Thank you so much for having me, Celine. It's great to be here.
I'm very excited about this. So when we were connected, it turned out we had a bunch of awesome people in common. So I'm extra excited because now more people will get to be introduced to just how incredible you are. So this is a pleasure for me. It's always nice when I get to be like, oh, look at this wonderful person.
Pleasure. No, I saw your photo when the request came through, and I was like, oh, we've worked with the same photographer. he works with great people. Like I know who he works with, so I knew it was going to be a lot of. I knew you were good people.
Well, I appreciate that. I'd love to know a little bit about your story. What got you to what you're doing now? Because, you know, motivational speaker, entrepreneur, spokesperson, like you have quite a few, and an author. I can see your book cover in the background there. So you have quite a few really interesting and diverse things on your plate. So I'd love to know a little bit about your story. What got you to where you are now?
Right. So I think, at the core of my story, I'm an entrepreneur. I wasn't always that way. It happened, it chose me. I took a trip to India. I had an eat, pray, love, experience. I was running away from, something, running towards something else. And while I was there, I had the light bulb moment of, I want to have my own business. I want to create something. And I, a few years earlier, I'd taken up paddleboarding as a sport, as a hobby. And I loved it. And it was, right around the time that the boom was happening. It still is. It's the fastest growing water sport in North America. And I remember I was on the Ganges River, and I remember just seeing these lotus flowers like going down the Ganges, and they had candles in them. And I remember thinking, I want that. I want to light up the water. I want those people. I want people to be the candles, and I want the lotus flowers to be paddleboards, and I want to create this big thing in Toronto that Toronto's never seen before. And it would be, experiential based for consumers, and I came home and I built that. And it was one of the biggest joys in my life. It was the first time. Well, was it hard for you when you became an entrepreneur? Like, there was so many things to figure out. Like it was like playing Tetris.
Yeah.
But I think I took marketing and public relations in college. I went into it very, with the mind of, this is going to be experience based. I want to do it in front of, the Toronto backdrop, like the CN Tower at sunset with the planes flying over. But I also went into it with the idea that, okay, I need to team up with the top bloggers in the city. I need to approach the Canadian Safe Boating Council and get them to make me their safety expert on their paddleboards, so that when the media day came, I was everywhere, so that my business would grow. And it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun.
I love that you had a vision and threw yourself into it so wholeheartedly. I think that is really admirable.
I think that goes a lot of the experience that I had first had. I remember showing up for my lesson, and the guy just threw me in the water, and it was like, Titanic, like you're trying to grab onto something, and I just remember thinking, okay, I want people to show up. I want to give them a beach lesson, go over the anatomy of the equipment, the safety stuff, create this whole experience. It wasn't just a lesson. It was a lesson and a tour. I invited, part of the evenings anyways, where people would bring their dinners with them, and I'd provide water bags, and we would go from Cherry Beach in Toronto and paddle over to Ward's Island on the island facing the city. And I'd block off 45 minutes so that they could have a picnic. Because I wanted to create the ultimate date night, and build some romance into it. So
I love that. I love that idea. And I immediately thought I would definitely have fallen off that paddleboard. It seems like such a long distance, and it's not, but
it's not. No, there were plenty of people who would go over on their knees or sit on their bums and do it. But no, it was just one of the best part of it was I became very skilled at taking photos, and I'd take amazing photos of them, at sunset, and then I'd send them home after pieces, and to this day, I people repost it. I've seen it. People have blown it up and had it framed, and yeah, no, it was a big part of my life.
So it sounds like it's not something you're doing anymore, or at least not in that way. So what has progressed since then?
So in November 2018, I developed a sudden neurological condition. Very suddenly, I just returned, because you can only paddleboard for 6 months, and like I do it for a year, but normal people do it for 5-6 months. So I'd gone out to California to set up a business partnership, which would have seen me doing retreats, corporate retreats. And I came home, and 10 days later, I developed a neurological condition, which immobilized me. My face collapsed. It was a reactivation of my chickenpox virus attacking my ear. And my face dropped. It looked like I'd had a stroke. I still live with hearing, vision, impairments, and my speech was impacted. And, overnight, my independence, my business, my social life was just gone. And I went from being vibrant, athletic Mike to not being able to walk from the living room to the kitchen Mike.
Yeah. It's a big difference. It's a huge change in who you are and how you are in the world. That's not who you are, how you are in the world.
Yeah, no, there was a huge mental health journey that came along with, so many things. I struggled with, just looking in the mirror, going outside, having people look at me, but also, having specialists say, you'll never do this again. And making the decision that the business is done, and I'm not going to carry on. It was very tough, and I think anybody who has a business who goes through a significant loss like that will also resonate, and also people with businesses who just experience challenges. I think they really understand that.
I'm going to say the most tried trope ever, but the only thing that is consistent is change. There's always change that happens, right? And there is change that we can be prepared for in some way, because we can see that, the economy is changing, the applications we use to run our business are changing, the weather patterns are changing, and we have to adapt when we're on the whatever it is. And then there's change that throws us for a complete loop because we have no anticipation of it. And that to me is really the kind of change that you went through and experienced.
No, I think, I went into that business, and that was something that I've learned to navigate. I went into that business, as this dreamer, as this, I didn't have the systems in place that I do now with my new business. I wasn't set up for the worst in case it happened.
Yeah.
And now that I've been through that, I've learned from it. So I have systems in place. I have, I haven't put all my eggs in one basket this time. So no, there are definite learning lessons from that. And yeah, no, I never expected to end up where I was today. Like if you talked to me 4 or 5 years ago, motivational speaking, coaching, working with different organizations, being, I'm working with an app right now that's launching with lifestyle experts. They, it's for kids and parents, and part of the deal with that was that I became a shareholder with the company. Like new opportunities. And before it was, I wasn't thinking of all the different opportunities. I was just focused on the one thing. And now I've learned, okay, let's get the book out. Let's get this, let's branch out and broaden everything.
It sounds like one of the big lessons was not to put all your eggs in one basket, to be doing a few different things.
Yeah.
What else did you learn from whether it's this experience or the transition in entrepreneurship itself?
Yeah. So, I think there's a confidence now that there wasn't before. And I think that comes from the failure itself. That comes from the collapse. I do, breakdowns lead to breakthroughs.
Yeah.
There was a breakdown with my business. There was a personal mental health breakdown personally that I talk about that in speaking engagements in the book. But there are things that we all learn when we are tried and tested, and we can take them and we can run with them and we can do amazing things. It's exciting.
Yeah. So we've had a few people this year on Canada's podcast, and I've interviewed a couple of them where we spoke a lot about burnout and the effects of mental health on entrepreneurs, because we don't talk about that a lot as entrepreneurs. We tend to glorify all the successes and look at the shiny object and look at how wonderful everything. And we don't talk about the realities that it's hard and it's isolating. Yeah. And when you're isolated and doing hard things, you can miss the fact that you're breaking down or burning out or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. So, right here, right now with you, I'm feeling good. I live with a neurological condition that's exhausting all the time. This summer, I've actually put on most of my engagements on hold right now until the fall, because this summer I am attempting to become the first person with a disability to paddleboard from the USA to Canada, raising, my goal is $1 million for youth mental health programs with Jack.org. And they've created a whole campaign around it. But 3 weeks ago, I was at the point where I was burned out, because for the last 8 weeks, I've been reaching out to the top oil companies, mining companies, tech, legal, real estate, all of Canada's top favorite brands, spending hours filling out forms for CSRs. And I was just at the point of like mental breakdown. like it was just too much for one. I'm like, how I will go down as the crazy guy who contacted 500 companies' marketing departments. But no, it's I was at the point of I was feeling really run down and really tired, and I needed to step away from that for 4 or 5 days and just go and do some self-care, because otherwise, stress was what brought on my neurological condition, and it can end your career. And I know that.
Well, and I love that you said that, because I was going to ask if, and it sounds like, but I'm not going to make any assumptions, but if you're more aware now when you're hitting those points that you need to step away than you were 5 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. No, I can feel it. I think as a person who has facial paralysis, it's not as evident as it was before. My face was sunken in before, but now I can even tell when I'm really tired. People can see it in my face. I can see it. I can feel it. I can feel it in my body when the barometric pressure changes. I crash. When I'm working too much, when I was building all those databases with all these marketing department contacts, I was taking inventory, and I was like, I've been doing this for 14 hours. Like it's too much.
Yeah.
And I think, I was determined and ambitious with it. And I was like, well, if I don't do it, nobody's going to do it. But at the end of the day, you're useless without your health. So know when to step away and take that break.
Yeah. I love that. I think it's great advice for anyone at any point in time, but especially entrepreneurs, because I think we tend to be the worst at doing that when we need it the most.
And I think a big problem with that is that many of us enjoy what we do.
Yes.
So we don't think of it as hard work. We don't think of it as, draining, but it is. Yeah. We just overshoot that because we're so revved up about the projects that we're taking on. But it does take a lot out of us. And now it is important.
So you mentioned that you're going to be paddling across Lake Ontario. Tell me a little bit about that, because that's super exciting.
Right. So, I think it all comes back to being told by specialists, what do you do for work? And I said, I'm a professional paddleboarder. I can't walk. And they're like, oh boy. And then, months later, them saying, this is done. And then, I ended up getting on a paddleboard for 3 minutes, and that turned into another 3 minutes, and that turned into 5 and turned into 7 until I was standing up. And now, that was 2 years ago. And now here we are. And, I became an advocate for Jack.org because of where I went. I did a speech at Speaker Slam, North America's largest inspirational speaking competition, that won the event and went viral on several platforms. And I talk about my mental health journey. Last November, when I was thinking about, I had just done my annual fundraiser for them. And, I raised, several $1,000s for youth mental health programs. But I thought, we're in a pandemic. This was in September. In my eyes, it underperformed of what it could have been. I think there was a lot of fear at the time in September, and people didn't want to come out, and it was just not designed the way that it could have been. So I just started thinking, and I thought, okay, well, what is going to make big buzz? What is going to generate excitement and hype and get things going? And I thought, wow, the first person with a disability to cross international waters, that'll do it.
Yeah.
Let's create international headlines and do something big, and do it for Jack.org. So I've been working with their team for the last 6 months really on this. They've created, I decided I was looking at, they had 2 guys swim Georgian Bay last summer. and they raised several $100,000, and they launched that the month that they ran it. And I thought, okay, and I've studied them. I think it's important to always study people who do things before you do them. And I looked at them and I was like, what did they not do? And I realized they didn't go after the media, and they didn't go after every company across Canada. So I decided, okay, let's build up a base of corporate donors, companies who want to attach themselves to an amazing cause, and who also want a tax break, and who also want a marketing experience, and build up a base. And then we drop it in the media for public participation. So it's exciting. It's a lot of work, but it's exciting.
I think it's super exciting.
It's going to take 3 days sitting down. I'm going to be doing it with 2 safety boats. It's looking like Red Bull Canada's probably going to be on one boat, and possibly Canadian Geographic on the other. It's up in the air. And then the Toronto Marine Police Unit has said they'll send out a fleet of boats to bring us in about 15 kilometers out. So it should be a spectacle, but it'll do a lot of good, and it'll raise a lot of money and a lot of awareness for their programs. So that's good.
I think it's so admirable you're doing that. I can't believe it's only going to take 3 days. I was thinking like 18. So
most people cross from Youngstown, like Marilyn Bell and all the swimmers, like they go from Youngstown. I decided I wanted to do it from Rochester, to make it more challenging. Like, let's just roll the boat out and go crazy with this thing. Yeah. So we'll cross over to Rochester by boat early in the morning, check in with border services, probably do a media call over there, and then set out on the launch. So, but it'll be exciting. So
I love it. I think it's really great. If people want to support this cause, and if they want to support you in doing this, is there a place they can go to do that?
Yeah, you can just connect with me. So Jack.org has created this amazing website for this. It's called The Crossing. It's got a bunch of numbers in it. So if you are interested, contact with me, and I'll set you up. They've created a website with, corporate donor letters and sponsorship decks, and it's it's just a really exciting thing. And just today I found out that, the top paddleboarding company in the world has said, we're going to fit you with athletic gear, with a hardboard, with a new paddle. We're going to give you a corporate donation. We want you to take over our IG lives to our hundreds of thousands of followers while you're out there. It's amazing what companies are doing. I've had legal firms offering me pro bono legal work. Like, it's awesome.
It says a lot about you and your desire to do this more than anything else. So, I will note for anyone who's watching or listening that you can find Mike on all social media platforms as the Unbalanced Paddleboarder. He's very easy to find. He's super active. He's a joy to follow. So definitely check him out. And you can obviously follow his journey as he steps into this adventure in the summer, crossing Lake Ontario there. Mm-hmm. But before we wrap up, I want to check in and say, is there anything that we didn't get to, or that you want to leave our listeners with specifically?
Yeah, so I think, we touched on this briefly earlier. When you don't know something, learn from somebody who's gone through what you're experiencing before you. It's not just kids who need mentors. We all do. And I surround, your network is your net worth, and surround yourself with people who have gone through what you have before. In my personal story, when all of this happened, what I did was I pulled out my iPad and I Googled famous people, my condition, just to put a face on something so rare. And I found that the founder of P90X, the exercise guru, Tony Horton, it had put him in a wheelchair, a year before me. So I wrote to him and I built this relationship over time, and he became this mentor figure, this friend. He's a part of my book. But I think that there is a huge value in finding the people who have gone through what you're experiencing now before. And it will save you a lot of time and a lot of heartbreak, and it'll help a lot.
I think that is the perfect way to end this. So, Mike, thank you for being with me. I really appreciated it.
Thank you for it was a pleasure, Celine.
And to all the listeners and viewers, thank you for listening to Canada's podcast. Like, comment, and subscribe to all our channels to get the latest podcasts from entrepreneurs across Canada.